Hello and welcome to this presentation on Picture GR. I need to mention that we are on a working nursery today, so you may hear intermittent rain, just in case you wonder what that is on the audio. I'd like to introduce you to Nicholas van Cutsem from Ecospray UK. Hi Nicholas.
Hi Martin, great to be here with you today.
Nicholas, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your role is within Ecospray?
So I'm a sales manager at Ecospray, covering sectors such as the hardy ornamental sector with you at ICL, as well as the sports turf and amenity grass sector in the UK and elsewhere, and also the arable sector.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about Ecospray and their activities?
So Ecospray was formed in the late 90s, and it always had the specific aim back then of wanting to create a biopesticide product made from natural materials that would be competitive against the conventional chemicals that were on the marketplace at the time then and that are still on the marketplace now.
And can you tell us what led you to garlic as a plant protection product?
Garlic is really interesting actually, and it's got some very unique properties, and in particular it's the polysulfide chemistry that's found within garlic that is of primary interest to us as a business. Polysulfide chemistry is extremely effective against a number of insect pests, but you need to know how to extract it and activate it from within garlic itself. And that's what we have spent a long time, probably about 15 years worth of R&D, has got us to that point of really understanding how to extract this particular chemistry from within the garlic and then how to activate it as well. And that's where our patented technology sits around that as well.
Okay, and Nicholas, how about vine weevil? How did you come to look at that as a pest?
Well, in the years that we were doing our R&D, of course, we had to look at a whole different set of insect pests and different plant types. And one of the aspects of real interest to us was that not only did we have efficacy against the target pest that we were originally looking at, but we also found that we had strong efficacy against eggs being laid in the sort of upper soil surface profile. Insect pests such as leather jackets, and rather crane fly should I say, but in this particular case, of course, of real interest to us, the vine weevil. And what we know is that from our R&D and from our trial work, if our product comes into contact with the eggs laid by the vine weevil, then it will kill the eggs.
Excellent, thank you very much Nicholas. So now we need to prepare to apply Picture GR. There are some legal documentation that you need to read before you apply Picture GR, and they are obviously the label, and you must read the label before you even start to apply any plant protection product. Also, because it's an off-label approval via an EMU, you need to be in possession of the EMU document. Now you can have this on your computer electronically, but the operator needs to have that in his possession when he's actually applying the product, along with the label and also the safety data sheet. And these are three pieces of very important documentation that the operators need to be in possession of. The EMU, which is an authorization for minor use, can have differing information on it to the label, which may be for a different crop. That is quite common with EMUs. So again, the operator needs to make certain that the information on the EMU is followed exactly. Picture GR has two label rates: a maximum individual dose of 240 kilos per hectare or 24 grams per square metre, and a half rate of 120 kilos per hectare or 12 grams per square metre. So now we're going to demonstrate the application of Picture GR on a crop. But before we do apply the product, we need to make certain that the operator has got the correct PPE and is wearing it correctly. Now this is because on the label and on the safety data sheet there are certain references to operator safety and environmental safety, and we need to follow those to the letter. So I'd like to introduce to you Stuart Gamage, who is wearing the correct PPE. So if we start from the bottom, we've got rubberized boots, which need to be waterproof. Then a full-length suit, including a hood, which will cover the whole body. And as you can see, nitrile gloves, very important for any application of plant protection products. Also, because it's a granular product, Stuart needs to wear eye protection, so he's got safety goggles on. So normally what Stuart's attire is, as it is today, would be perfectly okay for the application of PPG. But if you find yourself in a very enclosed space with no ventilation at all and it's quite humid, it may be necessary to wear a respirator such as this. There's no need to do this in well ventilated areas or when applying outside, but it's just to note that on the label, if you do feel that you're applying in a very restricted space, it's always advisable to follow the label and wear a respirator. So before growers commence application, it's very important they have to hand a spill kit, which will consist of a dustpan and brush, and also a sealable container to place any contaminated product into that container with a sealed lid, and then that needs to be placed into the chemical store ready for disposal by a registered waste company. So before you commence any application of a plant protection product, including PPG, ensure that you have a first aid kit to hand close to where the application is commencing. This is because it's quite possible that with liquid sprays you could get splashes to the eyes, or with PPG, which is a granule, if there's a gust of wind it could blow the granules into the eye. Now it's essential, if that happens, that you have access to eye wash, so you can treat the affected personnel with the eye wash before you can get them to the eye wash station near the chemical store. It's paramount to have one of these with you prior to any application of a plant protection product. So now you've got that full PPE on as recommended by the label, Stuart can now go ahead and start decanting the product into the applicator. So as you can see, Stuart had the product on some scales, so he's measured out 1.2 kilos of product at 240 kilos per hectare, which gives him 1.2 kilos of product at 24 grams per square metre rate. Ultimately, he will be treating 100 square metres of crop. For today's demonstration, we'll only be doing a proportion of that area, but it's important to know, before you apply pitch, you need to know the area you're going to treat. Now, you either measure the area with a tape measure, or if you know the exact measurements of your beds, you can work out the square meterage from that, and you extrapolate that area by the recommended rate. In this case, it's 100 square metres at 24 grams per square metre, which gives us 2.4 kilos. So now Stuart is ready to apply the product. He needs to know what calibration to use. And what we have here is an ICL mini spreader, which will be available from ICL and its distributors. Now what we have done with this is calibrated it correctly, and so what I can tell you is that for this spreader we cover 5 linear meters in 11 seconds. That equates to 1.62 kilometers per hour. Also, the speed or revolutions of the handle needs to be turning at 2 revolutions per second, which is 120 beats per minute. Now, to make sure that you keep up accurately with that revolution, you can use a Metronome app, and there's many of them on the App Store. We use Soundbrenner, and what that does is give you an audible sound which bleeps 2 times a second. And what you need to do is get the revolutions of the handle in sync with the audible sound from the Metronome app. Stuart has that all set up, so now Stuart's going to take this to the crop and show us how to apply PPG. So now Stuart has measured out the correct amount of product and decanted it into the applicator. He must place the open bag of pitcher in a safe sealed container, such as a mobile chem safe, as you can see here. Under no circumstances should you leave containers of plant protection products opened or unattended without them being in a safe container. Now from there, this container either needs to go back into the chem safe, into its original container within the chem safe, or it can be transported somewhere else in the nursery in case it's to be used again for some additional application. So now Stuart is going to turn on the metronome, which is set at 120 beats per minute or 2 beats per second. This is so he can gauge the revolutions of the handle on the applicator to ensure he gets good, accurate application technique. He will also, as I said, be going at a forward speed of 1.62 kilometers per hour, which is 5 linear meters in 11 seconds. So now Stuart's commencing application using the metronome as a guide to get the correct revolutions and moving at a standard speed of 1.62 kilometers per hour. By doing this consistently over the crop, he will get the right amount of product onto the crop at the relevant rate, thus following the label to the letter. We're now entering a new era with regard to vine weevil control in the UK. With the revocation of certain chemical actives such as thiacloprid, which is included in exempta, we're now moving to a new IPM approach. At ICL we've already looked at this issue going forward, and we now have Picture GR, our Biorational insecticide for the suppression of vine weevil eggs and early instars, and also our Seeker nematode range, which includes vine weevil Seeker and vine weevil Seeker CT, or cold tolerance. It's perfectly possible to utilise Picture GR and vine weevil Seeker within an IPM programme on the nursery. And because this is a bespoke programme, this will be specific to the individual grower and can be amended on an ongoing basis going forward. So it's paramount that growers liaise with ICL to ensure that when they are applying Picture GR and Seeker, that they use them in the right programmed approach to optimise efficacy. So now I'd like to just go into the Stockbridge Technology Centre trials to just explain how we arrived at the rates of use for Picture and to prove the efficacy. So the Picture GR STC trial was conducted at Stockbridge Technology Centre near York. We conducted the trials using Euchera plants, which are known to be favoured by the vine weevil adult. This was to assess the efficacy of Picture against viable vine weevil eggs. The first trial we conducted was for the efficacy of mortality of these eggs. And each pot had 15 viable eggs placed just under the surface, very precisely. And then we had a control, which is on the left-hand side, and then various rates of Picture up to the maximum individual dose of 240 kilos per hectare. And as we can see from this first slide, the mean percentage of mortality increases in line with the rate increase, up to almost 100% control at the 240 kilo rate. What is very key to us is to note the 120 kilo rate, which again is given upwards of 80% control. So the grower now will have the choice of 2 applications at the 120 kilo rate or 1 application of 240 kilo rate. And this gives the grower options depending on the vine weevil population after they've monitored the situation. We then looked at the number of larvae that would be recovered after treatment. And again, on the left-hand side, we had the untreated. And then going down right to the right-hand side is the maximum label rate. And again, this is the mean number of larvae recovered. So as you go right on the scale, you can see, again, there is a rate response. So the higher the rate, the more mortality of the larval stage. Again, if we look at the 120 kilo rate, which would give the grower 2 applications in a season, we can see that the mean number of larvae has dropped considerably and is deemed to be commercially acceptable as a reduction. Again, if there's a high population, the grower can decide to go for 1 application at the 240 kilo rate, which again has almost decimated the larval population.